This is a blog on Brandon and Dylan's writing adventure while going through the English class Writing and Critical Inquiry. This class has improved our writing and critical thinking skills and exposed us to the questions, what is beauty, and is beauty subjective or objective? As time went on, we talked about how beauty can be found in many different things and has many aspects. After reviewing plenty of articles and doing our own research, we focused on one aspect of beauty and analyzed it and created our own academic argument on how our topic is found beautiful. Dylan's argument, or my argument, was inner beauty is more important than outer beauty in a Christian perspective. Brandon's academic argument was the stars and planets that are created are beautiful in all aspects. The following blog will take you through a summary of our thoughts of how writing shifted and expanded for us while taking this course.
So, my first point that, I learned while taking this class was that reading and reviewing sources during the class has helped me strengthen my ability to think more critically about any factual information as presented in any normal conversation or any debate or any website that I find on Google or I find on any database. So taking the time in this class to analyze a source and read it out loud carried over in my practical life to make me think more critically while even watching things or reading things on the news and watching out to see if they are right or left leaning, and also looking at commercial websites and blogs because they could have some bias and that aren't actual factual information. And I learned to take a look at that and look at the reliable sources versus the non-reliable sources and differentiate which one is more reliable than the other.
So, for my first point, I wanted to talk about annotated bibliography. You may all hate those, I hate it too, but it's super useful. So it is very important because you can take notes on a certain source or website or book or whatever, and when doing my research, like on the academic argument paper, I created one and it was very useful, and you can just think about it. You have resources that you can go back to check to see what the book or source is saying, even if you forget. And I thought this was like the most useful thing ever. So when you're using an annotated bibliography, it can reduce time when writing your rough draft or even your final draft. An annotated bibliography may not be fun, as I said before, but is extremely useful. An annotated bibliography has the website or book or any other source already ready, usually, to be put into a works cited page if a works cited page is needed, which usually it is. Therefore, that's one less thing you have to do when putting your whole project together or writing your paper. Another useful part is when going back to the website from the bibliography. It has a mini description under it, as I said before, but it's so you don't forget what website says what. So you don't go into a certain website and say something that a different website said and then cite the wrong thing. It is overall a great thing to have and is extremely useful in the long run. In the video link, which is right there in the blog, explains super simple, it's like 4 minutes long, on how to create a super simple and extremely helpful annotated bibliography.
The second thing that I learned while taking this course was that spending more time on getting a great rough draft at the start is not only helpful later on while writing your final paper, but it also relieves a lot of pressure and stress that might be taken on you from wanting to get a good grade, wanting to do well on the assignment, and wanting to write a good paper. So taking more times on the rough draft to get your ideas down, focus on the structure, focus on the format, will benefit your final draft. And the more that is written in your rough draft, the more that can be reviewed by teachers, the more that can be reviewed by students to help strengthen your final paper and make it the best it possibly can be. And the less time that you have to spend later on while writing your final draft for the grade, it helps a lot with the stress because personally, I waited till the last minute to write my rough draft, which gave me a lower grade than what I usually get, which put a ton of stress on me wanting to get a better grade on the final paper so that that grade can overlap and mix to get a good, decent grade. And I also stayed up late while writing these, and I learned to just write more down in the rough draft so that it benefits your final draft, so that it's more structural and good.
So, a very important video and later discussion that we had in Miss Neatfeld's class was a video called Beauty is an Inside Job. This video was about having a good personality is really important and looks aren't everything. Dawn Shaw, the lady, as you see in the picture, she talked about how words are very important and how one's emotions can be hurt. It may even change their lifestyle forever. A great example of this is bullying. Bullies can be so mean to others, and the person being bullied might even change the way that they act or they feel just based on what the bully is saying. After this video, I started the discussion off with an apology and wanted people to come talk to me at a later date. I did this because sometimes I can say something demeaning even though I don't mean it. I can get too hyper and I lose control over my actions, and I need to learn how to control them. I have started the process to control them, but I have a long road ahead of me. When I said this in the class, I meant it. I wanted to fix our relationship because all of you and whoever isn't here and who's ever close to me, they mean the world to me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. This offer still stands today and will always be available. I want to keep all the friends that I've made here, even if we go separate ways after high school.
So, on my final paper, as I was writing it on the academic argument, on my academic argument, I found that people that aren't as familiar with knowing much information about outer space or the universe wrote more down and analyzed the beauty in photos more than experts did that know the field and know what they're talking about. The study that I analyzed and used as a source was there were several focus groups and pictures that were given to experts and non-experts, all ranging from knowledge of space, and they were asked to analyze them and just write down what they feel, what they see. And a quote from the article Astronomy and Aesthetics is, experts prefer a text that is shorter and to the point, and novices prefer a more narrative, expository style for the text that accompanies images. Another quote is, experts and novices view space images in remarkably different fashions. Novices begin with more of a sense of awe and wonder. Experts wonder how the images were produced and what the creators of the images wanted to convey. When I read these results, I was surprised that the experts didn't write as much on the images than the non-experts, because the experts know more information, they know more to write down more than the non-experts. They just wrote down what they saw in the picture, and I didn't see how you could write down more than an expert that knows what they're talking about. And overall, this shows that everyone, even experienced or not, finds the universe and those pictures beautiful.
So, for my final paper, I learned what the Bible says about beauty and that there are many scriptures that just come out and say it. So this is what the Bible says. This isn't what everybody should believe. So a great example is 1 Peter 3:3-4. It says, "Do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair and the putting on of gold jewelry, or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious." This verse in the Bible simply sums up the ideas that Christians should have about beauty. In the verse, it just says what God is looking for and simply states that inner beauty is more important than outer. Inner beauty can be described as something that's experienced through a person's character rather than by appearances. Outer beauty is the physical attractiveness of a person or what meets the eye when a person looks at you. Outward appearances can be deceiving. It doesn't reveal what people are really like. Outward appearances don't show a person's value or character or faithfulness to God. Outward qualities are by definition superficial. Moral and spiritual considerations are far more important to God. Personally, I believe most Christians should agree that inner beauty is more important than outer beauty because your spirit is eternal and your body is not. Another example is Romans 8:6. For to set the mind on the flesh is death, but you set the mind on the spirit is life and peace. In the verse, it says when you think about flesh, it leads to death. But when you think about the spirit or how you treat others, the result is life and peace. Another good example is 1 Samuel 16:7. But the Lord said to Samuel, do not consider his appearance or his height, for I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at these things people look at. People look at outward appearances, but the Lord looks at his heart. In this verse, it just says what the Lord looks at. He doesn't look at outer appearance, but he looks at inner appearance.
So, the last thing that I learned while taking this course was that trying to find a reliable and scholarly article, one should look at a peer-reviewed article on a database such as EBSCOhost or on Google Scholar. And that's just because the advantages of using those databases are significant because you find more reliable sources easier. And you can also have advanced searches to try to specify what you're looking for, such as a scholarly journal or a peer-reviewed article or a news article. And some of the risks of using Google are, again, finding biased sources, which can affect your final paper and the words that you were trying to say. And if you use a not reliable article in your paper, then it might destroy the whole reliability on your whole paper in general.
So for our last point, we wanted to say our favorite things about our whole class. So I love the discussions, and my favorite discussion was probably when Brandon and Clayton argued about the banana taped to the wall. It was really fun to watch.
Yeah, and that was my favorite part of the class, and it's just, I just enjoyed talking about it and expressing my opinion on how it is not art, because a 5-year-old can take a piece of tape and duct tape a banana to the wall. They can draw on a wall, and it's just, it's not something that should be sold for $120,000 to a museum. And it was just enjoyable watching something that shouldn't be worth a lot be taken down and eaten right in front of an audience.